The High Commission of Nigeria further presented receipts of payments on the said land made by bankers' drafts payable to the Executive Secretary of the Lands Commission. However, land title certificates had not been issued to the High Commission. The Lands Commission advised the High Commission of Nigeria to provide relevant documents on ownership of the land, but the former did not respond to the letter. Based on the silence of the High Commission of Nigeria, the Lands Commission went ahead and issued a land title certificate covering the said parcel of land to a third party. The Lands Commission has confirmed, however, that the letter of 7th August 2000 presented by the High Commission of Nigeria granting allocation and right of entry to the High Commission was genuine and indeed emanated from its head office. 7. Unfortunately, owing to the fact that the High Commission, the Nigerian High Commission, did not obtain a lease following the allocation letter or proceed to obtain a land title certificate or even a building permit for the new property that they were building, a search by the Lands Commission did not show that any proper documentation had been obtained in respect of the property, which is why they could not find any documentation on that piece of land. The government of Ghana will ensure that the demolished building is restored to its original state as soon as possible. The Lands Commission will proceed to issue a land title certificate to the High Commission of Nigeria to regularize its ownership of the property in question.
You see the twin bombers or whatever it is already circulating the whole circumference of Ghana. All hell will let loose. If it was UK, the same thing. It was Germany. So I think we should respect ourselves as a country. So thank you, Honorable Minister.
The Ghanaians, whether the local chief or the government should understand that because of that proximity, they should give us that respect. Then my question is very close to what Honorable Sada has asked, because this issue of Nigerian traders and everything, everybody is relating it to the issue of closing the border. Now, I'm sure the Honorable Minister would give us a list of, things that we have done to secure that, so that Nigerians will not be put at harm's way. But then, how far have we gone to see that these things have been, strictly been implemented? Because if they are, I don't think the Ghanaians will have the guts of demolishing the building and continue to subject Nigerians to, especially Nigerian traders. I have, friends that are in Ghana. I was going to complain to the chairman when they called this meeting. A number of them are still being harassed, Mr. Minister. They are still being harassed to the extent of following them to their homes. Really. It's not a question of putting a badge to say that I am a foreigner. No, they follow them to their homes. Most of them are helpless. They have succumbed to the pressure from the Ghanaians to the extent that Nigerians are being treated like slaves. Mr. Honorable Minister, please, we have to do something, diplomatically or otherwise. Left alone, and this is my opinion, the Buhari I knew as a uniform man wouldn't have tolerated this, maybe because of this democracy we are, and now he's a Democrat. If not, my father told me, if somebody slap your friend, if you get there, don't ask questions, slap him back. Let's get a small building that belongs to Ghanaians here. We demolish it. When they ask questions, we tell them it's hoodlums. We are sorry. We will look into it. This is what you do, tit for tat. I'm sure, Mr. Minister, you know this in diplomacy. Sometimes you look the other way around. Let's demolish one small building in Maitama or Asokoro. And when they talk, we say, sorry, it's hoodlums. They are angry because you have touched their brother there. Let's do it. All this grammar of writing letter, it will go because Nigerians were very forgiving people. But if you allow this area, with this lockdown, we have put security in Abuja, Kaduna Highway. We didn't know. They came at night and demolished the ambassador's house. I will look the other way. Thank you very much. Yes.
So if you thought that the Nigerians may have taken this lightly, you were wrong. Those you are listening to were speaking from their august House of Representatives, speaking there and speaking in the manner that, you know, they forget about all the diplomacy that is required to deal with this matter. This matter has become so serious that the president himself, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has reached out to the Nigerian president. But when they were done discussing and the Nigerians on their side had to issue a statement, if you have seen that statement, read the very final paragraph of it. They are not taking it lightly at all. Start with you, Kweku. We have heard Sami on it quite a bit because he's ranking foreign affairs. What do you think is going on, and what do you think about how we are resolving it vis-a-vis how the posture of the Nigerians is about it?
Look, I'm surprised at what the legislator was saying. He's voting for absolute lawlessness. I'm surprised. I mean, somebody who's been elected to that august house has to be a certain sense of proportion. I can understand. I mean, you are angry because there's been a demolition here of your diplomatic facility. Yes, but you control your anger.
The Speaker of the House said he had also tried to reach out to Michael Quay.
Yeah.
And you check the language, and it doesn't look like they are happy at all.
Yes, I agree. But I think he got it all wrong, you know. But I read something, and I haven't double-checked if it's true. I just saw it this morning. The foreign minister's view on the latest, I don't know if you've seen it, where he makes a concession.
Yeah, it's true, it's authentic.
That, that the Nigerian side itself too had some challenges in the sense of regularizing this facility over the years and all those. So he thought they should also look inward and concede that here and there they had some problems. But that's no excuse for the demolition and the way and manner it was carried out. But I come back, the Lands Commission, I have difficulty with the way our Lands Commission operates. Because you see, apparently, this allocation that was done as far back as 7th August 2000, we are now being told that was lodged at the headquarters of the Lands Commission.
As far back as 2000,
7th
this was allocated to the Nigerian High Commission?
Yes.
Right.
It's here, it's dated 7th August 2000. It's titled Allocation and Right of Entry to Accra Osu-Mante Layout, Site for Nigerian High Commission. They effected some payments through a banker's draft, Standard Chartered Bank and all that.
And that's for permission to start construction?
And that construction, from what I've heard, began 2011. Apparently, they also didn't go for building permits and all that. That's what the foreign minister himself is conceding, that they didn't do those things and all that. But see, and then the grant, the land certificate, that's the Lands Commission, granted Glyco Healthcare Limited this land certificate. This is dated, it's signed 5th May 2020.
Yes.
But if you read...
There was a lease the previous year.
They registered them the first day of September 2018. This is given to Glyco Health Care Limited on behalf of those who stood, because that land is vested in the president in trust for those who stole.
Right.
So first of all, there is a certain disharmony, lack of coordination between the headquarters of the Lands Commission and its regional. I don't think this should be happening at all. And then if you look at the 7th August letter, it was the allocation was done by the Lands Commission through the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ghana. My view is that when the regional Lands Commission was doing the checks and the Nigerians were not responding, no response was forthcoming, what stopped them from contacting the Minister of Foreign Affairs? This is a diplomatic mission. So if there's any challenge there, you're having any challenge within the jurisdiction of the Lands Commission in terms of lack of coordination and all the rest, I think a little hint to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs would have helped.
So what we are seeking to do now in trying to quickly regularize all of these processes for the Nigerian High Commission and to get them to restore the building for them, the process of regularizing, because initially they didn't have one document or the other, couldn't that have been done long ago?
Yes, but the Nigerians, and that's why I think the Foreign Minister of Nigeria is being a bit candid. It's a letter dated 4th July 2019 from the Greater Accra Regional Lands Officer to the Nigerian Embassy, asking them if they had any a right to the property. If you don't mind, I'll read it because it's important. It says, request for title documents in respect of site at East Ridge, Osumanche layout. Reference is made to the above subject matter with the subject site plan attached for your ease of reference. The subject piece of land falls within an area vested in the state for the trust of Osu Stool and managed by the Lands Commission on behalf of the stool. As the beneficiary stool, the chief of Osu has granted the land to a company, Glyco Health Limited, and the company has subsequently applied for a lease over same at the Lands Commission. As part of considering the application, the Lands Commission conducted an inspection of the site and observed that the embassy has enlisted the services of a private security company, Good Luck Security Service, to protect the said piece of land. The records of the Lands Commission, however, does not reveal any recorded interest in favor of the embassy. We therefore wish to request you to furnish us with any relevant document the embassy has and any comments from the embassy in relation to the subject site within 14 days from the date of this letter to enable us take the appropriate action on the application received from the company. The Lands Commission would advise itself if we do not hear from you by the said time. Counting on your cooperation, thank you, Maxwell Edu Insaf, Regional Lands Officer.
This is the Land Commission writing, and this is the Land Commission that in 2000 had already, allocated this property to the commission and taking money for it.
That's right. That's why I said that discrepancy on our side as Ghanaians also doesn't sound well, but lack of coordination. What kind of system have we put in place relative to Lands Commission, such an important institution of state? So this is not an excuse. The fact that there was not a response is not so much of an excuse for the demolition. And then two, once you realize that this letter was given to the allocation was done for the Nigerians through our Ministry of Foreign Affairs, what stopped the Lands Commission from getting the Ministry of Foreign Affairs involved? Because it's a diplomatic entity you are dealing with. They are being unresponsive. Get the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It's elementary, in my candid opinion.
Okay, so let's come to the point of a group of people together with bulldozers, whatever, move to this site and do the destruction, the demolition, and the state can claim it is unaware.
Well, it's possible. Not pleasant.
How is that done?
No, it's possible.
They can't understand that.
Yes, and I agree with them if they can't understand that, because it's difficult to appreciate and understand. But these things do happen, and they've been happening in this country occasionally. The news item that Joy FM put out, the Nigerian, and I don't know his name, but he appeared to be the spokesperson on the scene at that moment. He made a point about an armed man, one person with a pistol, who claimed that he had the backing of national security. Well, this is subject to verification. The two persons who have been arrested, I don't know if they belong to national security. They could be rogue elements. There is no situation, I have no evidence, and all my checks point to the fact that national security officially did not supervise the demolition. That's my information.
No, but this is the national security of Ghana that we know has been associated, rightly or wrongly, with similar such stuff previously.
Yeah, I would rather
except that often there is a denial that people can't believe.
Well, you see, it's very difficult to go along this line, but I would say there are rogue elements in all institutions of states. Some of them, and don't forget the Osu stool, Paramount stool. Apparently they are divided because there's another counter statement from a faction that disassociating themselves from the demolition. But the first statement from that one side appears to endorse it. It's possible for them to get either land guards or even some rogue elements in the national security who had no permission to undertake that exercise to back them. I'm being speculative here and cautious because I have no real facts to that effect. What I checked with national security hierarchy was that no, we are not involved. We had nothing to do with it. And then when you look at the recording you put out there, the gentleman who was speaking on behalf of the Nigerian embassy pointed to a person who had a pistol and who claimed they had the national security backing. I can't take that on its face value.
Okay.
You have to subject that to some critical analysis.
Okay.
But bottom line, it's an international embarrassment.
Right.
Either way.
So solution is found. We'll regularize the documentation and then we'll build the
apparently they'll be giving a new title to the Glyco people, and we are taking the expense. But I think that eventually those who did the demolition should be surcharged for the expenditure.
Is it good that the state is not disclosing to us the people that have been arrested allegedly who are supposed to face?
No, they must, because that is what will help to take away all the suspicions and conjectures and
You are the
analysis.
ranking member on Foreign Affairs. What do you have to say about how this has happened and how it can be resolved? And the Nigerian Foreign Affairs Ministry statement, the last paragraph I referred to, they said, after they say the president has been informed and they have spoken with President Akufo-Addo, they say the ministry wishes to call on all Nigerians home and abroad to remain calm despite the highly provocative attack on the High Commission of Nigeria in Accra, Ghana, and to reassure Nigerians that the federal government is engaging the Ghanaian authorities at the highest level to seek redress.
First of all, Samson, let me say good morning to you, to Mr. Abdul Malik Kwekubaku Jr., and to congratulate him on his major victory at the courts. I follow that case keenly, and I think that it's important that in public discourse we all try to be factual and to be fair to the reputations of persons. So it's a welcome victory. Let me also extend my regards to all our listeners and viewers across the globe. Samson, this is a very sensitive matter and a volatile one at that. And we have taken the view as a party and as a minority in parliament that we would not do anything that will stoke the embers, that will, as it were, exacerbate an already precarious situation. And so we have taken the position that we will be very measured and we will put the country first because we are guided by history. These are matters that, if not well managed and well articulated, and we don't put the national interests ahead of partisan opportunistic benefits, we could be up in flames. And so we want to appeal to all sides that this is a time to beat swords into plowshares. We should not lift up arms. My colleague legislator in the House of Representatives, whose audio you just played, I won't use strong words. I will just say that there's a lot of anger, but we can all be measured.
Statements like that could trigger their own people.
Exactly.
And to go set places on
Exactly. I mean, they have had to, and our committee, the Foreign Affairs Committee and the Defense and Interior Committee, we've taken this matter up strongly. We've met with the ministry, we've gone to the site to visit, we've also engaged Nigerian High Commission officials. And what is emerging is that the Nigerian state, you know, because of statements like this, have had to beef up security at all Ghanaian installations.
That's good.
In Nigeria.
But do you realize that their anger is not to this issue only, but to Nigerian traders in Ghana?
And I'm surprised that they do not balance that anger by recalling that we also have serious issues with the closure of their border, which has left businesses like Casapreco and many other traders. You've heard good members, you know, complain. Right. So we also have legitimate concern about that, you know, unannounced, I mean, very abrupt closure of the border in violation of ECOWAS protocols of integration and all of that. And yet we have been handling the matter behind the scenes. I know of efforts that, you know, the Foreign Ministry, the President of the Republic, even our committee have carried out behind the scenes using diplomatic channels to, you know, get Nigeria to reconsider its position on the closure of borders, which has brought considerable distress. So yes, we have a lot of issues that we must iron out. And it is the reason why we should be very, very careful, because all it takes is a trigger. If you do not manage these matters well, you have Nigerian shops closed for 8 months. It's unfortunate. I think that in the spirit of even the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, which Ghana hosts the Secretariat proudly, and in Nkrumah vision, we should be looking at how to open up, fully integrate, and allow Africans to trade amongst themselves. If you look at intra-African trade, which is still hovering around 16%, it's woefully inadequate. You cannot develop and transform your economies with the level of intra-African trade, which is the lowest amongst the continents, if you look at Europe, Asia, and others. So back to this issue.
Yeah, we don't have much time, so I want you to zero in on our resolution approach, including why we are not disclosing the people that we say we have arrested and are going to prosecute.
And publishing the committee's report.
You see, there are so many concerns that we have as a minority. First of all, we are of the view that the initial reaction, the statement that was put out, you know, if you look at the 20th June Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration statement, where they said unidentified persons, and then they said an alleged demolition. You know, we thought that statement was not the best at all. You know, we should have been more proactive, especially when at that time, the Nigerian Foreign Minister, Geoffrey Onyama, had put out very angry tweets and had called the attacks criminal and that Nigeria demands answers. That was not the time. When we knew at the time the Osu Traditional Council was even already, you know, taking responsibility, our government should have been more open. So that's one. Two, we said that the investigative process should be independent. Don't do it in-house, behind the scenes. That will not inspire confidence. Three, the report ought to be published. Four, the persons that you have arrested, you need to disclose their identity.
Okay.
Because, you see, there's a need to build bridges. And look, if you look at
the non-disclosure and non-identification of these people, does it feed into the suspicion of a state act, that what has happened is perpetrated by the state?
Look, let's be very frank. You cannot entirely delink the state from this matter. The Lands Commission has a lot of questions to answer. They are really competent. The work we have done so far at the level of our committee, the Lands Commission has not held matters. The Foreign Ministry has not been proactive. If you look at the obligations of our country under the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations 1961 and the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations 1963, Ghana ought to have been facilitating all of this. As I speak to you, the Foreign Ministry is facilitating new mission establishment for Suriname, Kenya, and Rwanda. And as is expected, because it will be an invasion if you say you want to open a mission in another country, and so you just get there and you are dealing with the Lands Commission directly. You do it with the Foreign Ministry. There's a Foreign Ministry that grants you access and that facilitates everything. Where was our Foreign Ministry all these years? So there is some dereliction. The Nigerian High Commission should not have been dealing with the Lands Commission directly on the blind side of the, Foreign Ministry.
You will admit, though, that our Foreign Minister, Shelia Ekobote, has been upfront and appears to be on the beat and doing things in a manner with a certain temperament that's very helpful to us.
I think so.
No doubt, but belated. I am saying that all of this could have been prevented. Look, Ghana now has 66 diplomatic missions established in Ghana, you know, and some 38 honorary consulates. Now, I can tell you that there is considerable disquiet and concern within the diplomatic community about what has happened. If we had gone about embarking on our obligations under all these international treaties, which Article 40C of our Constitution obliges us to do, in our dealings with other countries, in the pursuit of international relations. Article 40 is very clear. We should not have allowed the Nigerians to be dealing on their own with the Lands Commission. Then you have other entities, Usu Traditional Council, Glyco Health, and all of it. It was a messy situation. So it's as though we created...
President Akufo-Addo is speaking. We will listen to him briefly, and then we return. Kofi Abuchi is on the line. Also, Pemka is on the line.
Vice President, Second Lady, our dynamic Samira, President Kufuor, Chairman, General Secretary, Chairman of the Council of Elders, Majority Leader in Parliament, members of the National Council, officials of the New Patriotic Party, officials of the Electoral Commission. I thank Almighty God for the honor done me today by you, members of the National Council of the New Patriotic Party, acclaiming me as the presidential candidate of the party for the 7th December 2020 general elections. I shall, with God's help, do everything in my power to justify your decision and lead this most deserving party to another victory in December. I accept in all humility your decision. The rules of the Electoral Commission and the Constitution of the Republic require that at the time of filing my nomination, I should indicate the identity of my running mate, who, if God permits, will be the Vice President of the Republic. The Constitution of our party provides in Article 13(3) that the Vice Presidential candidate shall be selected upon the nomination of the presidential candidate in consultation with the National Council. So today, I have the great honor to put into consultation with you, the members of the National Council, my choice of running mate for the 4th time, the excellent, hard-working Vice President. Alhaji Mahamadou Bawumia. With your endorsement, the party will complete its presidential ticket, a feat that appears to elude some of our opponents. We have no such difficulty. We have a most fitting person to feature on our ticket. And I give you Mr. Digital. Mr. You and I were not there. The economic prophet, the Adam Smith of Wale Wale, my good and loyal friend, Alhaji Muhammadu Baumia.
Right, so His Excellency the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, there having been acclaimed by the highest decision-making body of the party to be the party's flag bearer for the 2020 elections in December. And he has accordingly repeated that he has Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia as his vice presidential candidate, so to speak. So clearly, there's a message that he's sending out, and he even added, without leaving it veiled, that the NDC appears to be in a difficulty producing a running mate. Let's see how that goes. Yes, Koku, what do you make of this?
To be expected.
Right.
We in the season for these things. And it was the politician and the president that was talking relative to, you know, getting his partisans agitated. I mean, that's excited and motivated and mobilized. So it's routine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the straight question to you is, what's going on? You can't seem to produce a running mate.
No, that's not true. Our flag bearer, President Mahama, has said that he knows his running mate. We're following a timetable. Remember that our campaign team is yet to be put out. He will make that announcement soon, and then he will announce the running mate. He is giving timelines. He said by end of this month. I mean, when Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, as he was then as flag bearer, he named his running mate on the 14th of August. You know, we are nowhere near August. That's in 2008. So it's you know, the tradition is that when you are incumbent, it's automatic. Or if you drop your running mate, then it portends crisis. Like you saw the situation with Accra. It means something is wrong. You know, so it's always a smooth transition. You know, if you look at the case of Aliyu Mahama, the case of Atamil's John Dramani Mahama as vice president. So I think that also this job is quite misplaced.
And something different you can observe with this particular organization, contrary to what happened at some of the places for the primaries, is that you see that people are in their face masks, and some actually have a double protection. They have the face mask, and then they have a face shield as well. A few of them have only a face shield. And as the doctors, and including a very good friend of mine, a doctor who just sent me some advice whilst we're on this show from the Kofanochi Teaching Hospital, is that the face shield is not the best of protection, so to speak, particularly where when you're in an inner place like this, you need the face mask rather. But if you want, you have this as a double protection, because we are not in an open space. So for those of them who are there and dancing to music and have only a face shield, that may not be the best protection in the COVID times. Okay, now let's return to our issue, and let me get Kwenka. Hello.
Put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, Kwenka. Okay. Yes. Thank you. Dinabochi is still on. So maybe we have you briefly on this issue of the acclamation that is done. It's routine. It's a ritual that ought to be done. It actually ought to have been done in a different circumstance, but because of the COVID, we understand they have allowed for the highest decision-making body in a certain way to take the powers to acclaim the president, rather than having, it would have normally been done last Saturday when the primaries were going all across the country. Then people would have actually indicated their preference for him by way of acclamation.
Yes, hello, Samson.
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Is there a question to that?
Yeah, so because of COVID, it's okay to sort of, as it were, abridge the constitutional provision and go ahead and let a few people do what, you know, a crowd ought to do.
Well, I haven't read the Constitution, so I can't really pretend to know. But it's entirely dependent on whether the Constitution allows this, whether the Constitution allows this in emergency times. If the Constitution does allow it, then it's done. But if the Constitution doesn't allow it, you may always have a troublemaker somewhere one day wanting to take this out. And that's always a sovereign difficulty or danger that you face. So if the Constitution allows it, then there's nothing to talk about. But if the Constitution doesn't, and it's just an emergency improvisation, then you always have that question mark at the background in terms of someone one day waking up and challenging the process. So
for the political parties, particularly for the NDC and the NPP, they have this omnibus provision that allows the highest decision-making body to do almost everything, you know, so that in certain circumstances, they become the law, so to speak. So they do whatever it's necessary to be done.
Right. So if you have the Constitution framed in those terms, that the highest decision body has the power to undertake acts or make such decisions as are necessary for the smooth running of the party from time to time. Once you have this general framing or phraseology as far as the Constitution is concerned, then of course it's allowed.
All right.
So I do not have the benefit of those provisions, so I can't really comment in detail. But once it's allowed, that's it.
Right.
But if it's allowed, there's nothing to be done.
Penka, are you able to assist us the specific provisions of your Constitution from where the mandate is drawn to do this instead of having the delegates do it? Okay, let's hear Vice President first.
John Ajekum Kufuor, the First Lady, Mrs. Rebecca Kufuor, Second Lady, my dear Samira Bawumia, members of the National Council, members of the Council of State, Chief of Staff, Senior Minister, Ministers of State, Members of Parliament, Chairman and members of the Council of Elders, national, regional, constituency, and polling station executives who may be listening, rank and file of the Kukrudu family, members of the media, fellow Ghanaians, ladies and gentlemen, Salamu Alaikum. I thank the Almighty God for this historic day. I want to express my profound gratitude and appreciation to His Excellency the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, for the honor of reaching out again to select me for the 4th time to serve as his running mate. His running mate, and inshallah, the next Vice President of the Republic in 2021. This day is historic because it has never happened before in the history of our country that a presidential candidate will select the same running mate 4 times in a row. That's never happened before. His Excellency the President selected me in 2008 against all odds. In 2012, in 2016, and now in 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, this tells you about the man, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, that I have come to know over the last few years. He is a strong leader. He's a caring leader, a God-fearing leader, a trustworthy leader, and a consistent leader. He could have dropped me in 2012. and he could have dropped me in 2016. But he stuck with me, and I am so honored that he did, and I am eternally grateful. Mr. President, I'll never take the trust and loyalty you have reposed in me for granted, and I'll continue to do everything in my capacity to support you in the execution of your mandate as President. Sir, it has been a privilege and an honor working for you, and I thank you for giving me the opportunity. God bless you. Mr. President, you have chosen me for the 4th time, and inshallah, the people of Ghana will give you 4 more years to do more for Ghanaians. Furthermore, I wish to express my heartfelt gratitude to the members of the National Executive Committee and the National Council of our party. I thank them most sincerely for their overwhelming endorsement of my nomination. What can I say more in appreciation to all members and sympathizers of the New Patriotic Party from polling station through constituency to regional and national level. You have loved me, you've cared for me, you've appreciated me, and I say God bless you all. I stand here today because of the sacrifices of my family, my parents, the love of my dear wife Samira, my children, my brothers and sisters, my departed dear friend Kwabena Boydu, and my entire family. I thank you all very much. As a believer in and practitioner of the liberal democratic values and principles of the Dankwa Dombo Buzia tradition, like all of you here, I have been inspired throughout my life by the thinking and deeds, sacrifices and accomplishments of such great political icons of our country and party, such as Dr. J.B. Dankwa, Chief S.D. Dombo, Edward Akufo-Addo, William Oforiatta, Alhaji Yakubu Tali Tolona, Bechibi Lampe, Professor K. Buzia, Jato Kalio, Naba Ifa Kabo, Alhaji Aliu Mahama, C.K. Tedam, S.G. Anto, Alberta Jude Boahing, Araram Ponsa, J.B. Darocha, Hawa Yakubu, Gladys Asma, J.H. Mensah, and our own gentle giant, the great J.A. Kufuor. I'm so indebted to so many men and women who have sacrificed and continue to sacrifice for our party and our country on a daily basis without reward or recognition. Mr. Chairman, it is our collective responsibility as members of the great Kukurudu family and as Ghanaians to ensure that the sacrifices of these great men and women have not been in vain. I'm therefore acutely aware of the sacred responsibility that has once again been entrusted in me by the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and our great party. It is a responsibility I will execute with utmost integrity, respect for our elders, members of our party, and members of other political parties. Mr. Chairman, I associate myself with the view of my boss, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, that politics is a call to service. It is about serving your country and delivering concrete results that improve on the welfare of your fellow citizens, without selfishness, dedication, honesty, transparency, and with the utmost integrity. I believe that an opportunity to serve Ghana is an opportunity and a privilege to serve all Ghana, regardless of ethnicity, gender, religion, education, income, and so on. It is in this context, ladies and gentlemen, that the policies of the New Patriotic Party, as implemented under the leadership of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, should be analyzed. We have delivered and are delivering on at least 78% of the promises we made to the people of Ghana. and across the spectrum of economic and social policies. We have not only delivered on our promises, we have performed much better than the incompetent alternative. Much, much better. They say we have short memories, but I don't think you can say that about the elephant. We recall that 8 years in office, after 8 years in office, the result of their economic mismanagement was declining growth, high and constantly rising inflation, rapidly depreciating currency, loss of business confidence, high unemployment, poorly regulated financial services sector, a collapsing NHIS, no ambulance system to speak about, a doomsaw, 45% average annual increase in electricity prices, increases in taxes, the freeze on public recruitment, cuts in research allowances, termination of teachers and nursing training allowance, teachers arrears paid only 3 months after working for many years, corrupt practices associated with acquisition of passports, driver's licenses, and so on. Finally, they ended up with the IMF for a bailout. Notwithstanding this abysmal performance in office, they are still trying to make a comeback to give us an additional dose of their incompetence. Mr. Chairman, I know they don't read, but I entreat them to take a look at the data to get better informed on our performance vis-à-vis theirs. They should not only read the data, but they should try to understand it so that they don't mislead Ghanaians like their mosquito general tried to do after the verdict of the Supreme Court on Thursday. If they study the data, they would realize that for our first term in office, we have not just performed better, but we have performed overwhelmingly better across the board. Mr. Chairman, any claim to better management of the economy must ultimately reflect in the lives of the people. How have we been able to reduce the suffering of our people and make life easier for them after 3.5 years in office? That is exactly what President Nana Akufo-Addo has done. We have ended the suffering associated with doomsaw. We have reduced electricity tariffs by 10.9% compared to a cumulative increase of 264% under the NDC. And we have further reduced tariffs by 50% for the months of April, May, and June this year. We provided free water for households in April, May, and June. Petroleum prices have increased by half the rate that they did under the NDC. We have doubled the capitation grant, established NAPCO, created jobs, and stopped the freeze on recruitment in the public sector. We've recruited over 550,000 people. We've abolished fees for postgraduate medical training, increased the share of the District Assembly Common Fund to the disabled. We've exempted Kayaye from market tolls. We've ensured the implementation of our promise to employ 50% of the persons who manage the country's toll booths from amongst persons with disabilities. We've restored the teacher training allowance, restored the nursing training allowance, restored the book and research allowance. We are paying professional allowances to teachers. The 3-month arrears policy, salary arrears policy for teachers has been abolished. We are absorbing the cost of BEC and WACSI exam registrations. We've sent 40 students from our Zongo and inner city communities on scholarship to Cuba to study medicine. We've abolished 15 taxes, including taxes on financial services, real estate, airline, and so on. We've reduced import duties by 50% generally and 30% on cars. We've made it easier through digitization to apply for a passport, to apply for a driver's license, to obtain your pension when you retire, to buy electricity through the ECG app. We've made it easier to apply for scholarships. We've made it easier to send money and receive money from people through mobile money interoperability. We've made it easier to renew your NHIS membership, to register a business, and we have reduced the corruption associated with obtaining services from the public service. We've saved the NHIS from collapse. We are providing 600 million Ghana cedis to small businesses. We've made seeds and fertilizers and extension services available to farmers. Whilst reducing inflation and reducing interest rates, we've halved the depreciation of the cedi. We've paid allowances to UN personnel, increase from military and police from $31 to $35, and we have spent over 15 billion Ghana cedis to save the deposits of the people whose banks were collapsing. 15 billion Ghana cedis. Last but not the least, we have implemented the free SHS policy that they said we couldn't do. Mr. Chairman, we have been able to do all this because under the visionary and strong leadership of the President, we have managed the economy much better. After 8 years in government, the NDC economy could not afford to pay teacher training allowances of just 60 million Ghana cedis. That economy, it could not afford to pay. So they had to cancel the teacher training allowance. In our first year in government, we restored these allowances, reduced and abolished 15 taxes, implemented the free SHS. In fact, by 2019, free SHS, NAPCO, the tax decisions, the tax deductions, teacher and nursing training allowances, and the cost of cleaning up the financial sector mess that we inherited was a total of 20.14 billion Ghana cedis. 20.14 billion Ghana cedis. So how can an economy that could not afford 60 million Ghana cedis on teacher training allowances be able to undertake an additional 20 billion Ghana cedis expenditure in just 3 years? This is why the NDC never believed that free SHS, which is costing us over 2 billion Ghana cedis annually, was possible immediately. We made it possible, and the difference is the competence of the economic management under the strong and decisive leadership of President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo. Ladies and gentlemen, it is therefore important that we stay the course and not play chaskele with the economy. Incompetent economic management has major consequences. The money we used to clean up the financial sector, over 15 billion Ghana cedis, and to pay the excess capacity charges from the power purchase agreements that the NDC entered into, could have been used to do much more. Mr. Chairman, we have done a lot in the last 3.5 years, but there is a lot more to do to realize the vision of the President, Nana Addo Akufo-Addo. The goal, as set out by the President, is a Ghana beyond aid. It is to build a modern, prosperous, and self-reliant nation which leaves no one behind. We have started putting in place the building blocks and systems. Economies work when systems and institutions work. We want to move away from the discretion of individuals to the efficiency of systems and institutions. Economies that depend on the discretion of individuals to get things done are generally inefficient and breed corruption. Taking such an interest in digitization? The answer is simple. We are thinking about the future, and digitization holds the key to the future in boosting economic growth, efficiency of service delivery in the public sector, reduction in corruption, transparency, and accountability. As an economist, I understand that there are certain key systems and institutions that have to be in place for effective monetary and fiscal policy. These include a unique identification system, an address system, and financial inclusion, and an efficient public sector delivery. The application of technology through digitization is going to help us put all these systems and institutions in place. Digitization is the best way to protect the poor and the underprivileged and to have who have no connections. With digitization, I can renew my NHIS membership on my mobile phone or apply for my passport online. I don't have to know anybody. With digitization, government revenues will increase several fold. You will not have to pay a bribe to get a driver's license or a birth certificate. The implications of digitization for the economy are phenomenal.
Welcome back from the NPP's acclamation process that's just happened, and Dr. Bawumia now speaking after the president named him again to be his running mate. JoyNews will continue to bring you everything else that is happening and has happened on the NPP's acclamation grounds at the Lisa Hotel, Swiss Spirit at Lisa Hotel. Let's get back to the studio here and try and finish up the discussion that we are having. And Kwenka, if you are there, I just needed you to give us, assist us with a little clarity on the provision that allows your party to abridge the acclamation process. Instead of having it being done by the delegates, you have an executive arm of the party doing so.
Let me be very clear and emphatic that when you go through the Constitution, you are not implicit going to see a provision that says that National Council should go ahead and do what has been done now, if that is what you are looking for. But the thing is that the National Council is a representative body of the party across the country, the length and breadth of the country. And you know, we are running a representative democracy. For example, each of the regions is represented at National Council by the regional chairman and then a regional rep who is elected by the party at that level to represent that region. So if you like, all the regions are represented proportionally in this meeting. And these representatives who represent the people on the ground have their mandate to take decisions on their behalf, as Parliament has the mandate of the people of Ghana to take decisions on behalf of the various constituencies. So National Council, which is representative of the various party structures across the country from the grassroots level to the highest, has the power and mandate of the people to act for and on behalf of the party. It is the highest decision-making body. So to that extent, it has the power to act the way they are acting now.
All right. But why is it that the president and his handlers, so far, people have been asking that when he's in public, they want to see him in face mask because he must be the first point of example. You find that he may have it, but he puts it down before he speaks.
I saw him wearing it just right now. He was wearing it.
And the vice president too was not wearing it whilst he took the podium to speak.
I think they were wearing it. It was just when he was going to speak that he took it off, but they were both wearing it. I saw both the president and the vice wearing it.
The law does not make exemption for that, does it?
Something, you see, that is another issue that we will need to actually look at critically at a later period. You know, you raised it earlier today, and I heard you raise it in clear terms about leaving your house and returning to your house and going to a public place, and etc. That is going to be the subject of another debate another day if you want us to do an engagement. But what I'm saying is that basically the direct answer to your question you asked earlier is that the National Council has the power to.
All right, and on that note, let me give this education coming from Dr. Oheneba Owusu Danso, who is the CEO of the Komfanoche Teaching Hospital his advice is that never think that the face shield is supposed to be a replacement for the face mask. You need the face mask, more importantly, where social distancing is not sufficient enough and you are in an enclosed place like we are. And so let's pay attention to that, because even in some situations, as he advises, they add the face shield to the face mask. But if you are in an open place, not enclosed like we are, and the social distancing is sufficient enough, then you may use the face shield, because the law actually says you use a face mask, you use a face shield, or you use a face covering. But the most important thing for all of us to note is that you need to protect yourself and protect others by protecting yourself. Let's not forget to keep to all of these. Right, so we will continue with our discussion, and we want to hear from Kwenka and Ms. Abuchi about the diplomatic situation between Ghana and Nigeria, how we can have a resolution that is lasting. Meanwhile, at 12:30, you will meet Odate Lante, ex-Ghana International, on Joy Sports Link with Nathaniel Atto. Yes, Kwenka, let's hear you. Hello, Kwenka.
Yes.
Yes. How do we get a lasting solution and avoid this international embarrassment?
Well, thank you very much. I have listened carefully to your panelists in the studio, specifically the Honorable Okujete Blackwire, and then my very respected elder brother Kwikubako. I've listened to them. I think that we're getting to a stage where there will have to be a committee of eminent persons from both states to engage at the highest level and then put these issues to rest once and for all. You realize that His Excellency the President and the Foreign Minister have taken decisive actions since the outset of these issues, and they have taken very, very firm and decisive issues to have resolution to the matter in order for the two countries to continue to coexist peacefully. But I will say that the government will elevate it to the highest level and ensure that the right things are done, and the right things are only going to be done if we engage each other in dialogue over the period to ensure that some of these nagging issues that have the potential of derailing the good relationship between these countries are looked at critically, and then the consensus arrived at so as to allow us to continue with our daily duties in these two countries without any friction. Yes, leadership is very important. His Excellency the President is providing just that, and is assisted ably by the Foreign Minister. And I believe that these issues will become things of the past soonest.
Abuchi, what do you have to say about what is going on and how we can avoid it and also resolve it permanently? Yes, Mr. Abuchi, my question is, how do we avoid this kind of occurrence and embarrassment?
Well, as I indicated, what we need to do now, it has already happened. So what we need to do now is to move quickly, I think, as the government is doing. I'm quite delighted to see there's a bipartisan approach to this so that we do not politicize it, since this is a very delicate and sensitive matter, so that the various aspects and the kinds of things that we say can further exacerbate things. So I think what we need to do is to really have a high-level intervention, and I'm glad that the two governments are talking at the very highest level, because these are very sensitive things. And there are many records of attacks on embassies across the world that have led to dangerous consequences, escalations between the two countries that cannot be contemplated. So I think that what we need to do moving forward is to ensure that the two governments talk at the highest level. And I think, as was mentioned earlier, there's a need for government to be involved in the settlement of diplomats and of embassies and of missions. And it's imperative that missions also coming to the country should engage government in their commercial dealings, because while there is diplomatic immunity for all kinds of things, when it comes to commercial dealings, embassies are actually on their own. They are just like private citizens. So to avoid some of these things and not knowing the complications of the terrains in different countries like Ghana it's imperative that when they go into countries, in their entries and settlements, they engage governments to ensure that the appropriate processes are gone through and that they navigate some of these difficult and complex social and legal dynamics of different countries.
Okay.
Our lump situation is a mess, and we all know. And if they had engaged government properly for their settlement, I'm sure this would have happened.
Right.
So moving forward, it's important that they engage appropriately and properly speaking.
Thank you very much for your patience, gentlemen. We have less than 4 minutes to go. I don't know if you can spend just a minute to say something about the primaries of the NPP, particularly that 41 MPs, sitting MPs, majority of them leaders of various committees in the House have lost the opportunity to return to the House, and whether that has any implications for the party going forward. Yes, Mr. Abuchi first. Okay. Yes, Panka, what do you have to say about that? You were fortunate enough. You didn't get to be contested.
Yes, Samson, thank you very much. You see, it's really a very, very serious issue that the party needs to look at going forward. Because, you see, I have always been on the floor of Parliament for deliberations all these years, and I have observed critically that those who participate actively on the floor of Parliament, unfortunately, those people do not have the opportunity to regularly interact with their people back home. For example, if you look at the chairman of the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, the chairman of the Finance Committee, and other such like positions, they are always on the floor of Parliament. And as a result of that, they are unable to reach out to their people regularly. And you realize that they are the people who lost. The Finance Committee chair lost, the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Committee chair lost, and then the Honorable Seta Kwame Champong to another sensitive committee also lost.
They didn't also because they didn't have enough money and couldn't pay, because as we understand, like one professor says, this was an auction sale rather than a primary.
Oh, I don't think so necessarily, even though in some cases, yes, money influenced. But in other cases too, some of the people took into consideration the fact that the people were not regular at home. If you look at, let me take a look at Koforidua, for example.
Okay.
I don't know. I have no idea how much any of them paid, but I think that the Honorable Asibe was certainly will have a deeper pocket than Basi.
All right. I'm sorry, but we can't continue. Thank you very much. I'm sure we can have this debate later, particularly that the president has just been acclaimed. Mr. Kujeto, just a minute. What do you have to say?
Well, let me wrap up on the Ghana-Nigeria diplomatic.
Okay, then that's the only thing you can comment about in a minute.
Let's learn from history. There are ways that these matters can simmer for a long time. On the surface, you think you have resolved it, but you have not. You recall the aliens compliance led to Ghana must go 1983, over 1 million Ghanaians deported. The Susudis affair in 1985. The next year, U.S. was withdrawing aid to Ghana, the Nobisto affair. So let's be guided. The Lance Corporal Jiwa coup staged from Lome, it strained relations between Togo and Ghana for decades until we got into the President Kufuor era, and his good neighborliness, agenda appeared to have, addressed that issue, but they are still undertones. So these are matters that you must take very seriously, pursue rapprochement in a way that is genuine and sincere, and let's be transparent about it. Right. National security should also learn lessons and be more proactive.
Thank you.
But I wish I could have commented on the vice president.
30 seconds.
The vice president should appreciate that. Look, Ghanaians have moved away from the politics of name calling, of insults, and incorrigible distortion of facts. Yes, it's language.
What do you say?
Your high office, you're occupying the vice presidential position. This is the incompetent lot and all of those things. And the continuous distortions. Book and research allowance was not cancelled. That is a blatant falsehood.
You sought to consolidate it into a fund.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But it was not cancelled. We were still paid.
Thank you.
This 550,000 jobs in the public sector. We still have less than 700,000
The last minute is for Kuku. Sorry.
But we'll resolve.
The last minute is for Kuku.
The scorecard is 14%.
Sorry.
And not 78%.
Yes. The last minute is for you.
I'm sure we'll have time to deal with this.
The investigative committee's report, the Demolition thing must be made public.
All right. That's all. Okay, so we have just run out of time. The next show is Nathaniel Atto. He comes up with Odate Lamte, ex-Ghanaian international, and you stay tuned in and enjoy. I'm Samson Ladia Yanini. My outfit, as always, is by Latida. Next week, I'll call on you to support by funding a project that is going on to provide for isolation and treatment center, as is being done by fundraisers and Senior Hosi leading. I have been chosen or challenged by Mama Vio Abuaje to also contribute. So I will also be challenging some people, including all my guests here, to contribute to that fund. Thank you. Have a good afternoon.